Sup people, this is Radu, welcome to my channel. Today I'm trying something kind of new and different. It's an idea I've been toying with, well, more than toying with. I've been seriously considering this for quite some time, but I was kind of scared of trying it, and as you may have already guessed probably, it's the idea of shooting these videos in English. The scary part was alienating my Romanian audience, but I think I'm gonna try this, see how it goes, see how this video is received, and I'll draw conclusions later, see if I continue doing these videos in English or switch back to Romanian. This is a test, and hopefully it all goes well. That said, thank you for being here. My trusty notebook, because I have to write down the important stuff. And the subject of today's video is this wonderful little pancake lens. It's the Industar 50-2. Don't let that fool you. It's not an 50mm f2. It's actually a 50mm f3.5 at its widest aperture. And as you can probably see, this is at infinity focus. It's hella thin. It's really, really thin. It's probably the lightest and smallest lens I've ever held and used, but it's better than most. It's especially considering its age, its manufacturing process, and its origins. It's really something. It's really more than you would think. So, as I said, this is an Industar 50-2 50mm f3.5. It's a rangefinder lens. It started production in 1959, although I've seen sources that mentioned 1953. However, thereabouts, mid-50s, late 50s, let's say, so that makes it a 60-year-old lens. I have a little bug on my hand. I don't mind. So, this was produced in Moscow, in the KMZ factory. I'm gonna try and say this in Russian. It's the Krasnogorsky Zavod factory. I think the Soviet pronunciation or the Soviet nomenclature was Krasnogorsky Mechanichinsky Zavod, which roughly translates to the mechanical factory of Krasnogorsky. Anyway, that's, I think, a suburb of Moscow. It's where this was produced. It comes with a M42 mount. I use it with this M42 to Sony NEX adapter, so I can at least guarantee it's an M42 mount. It's a copy of the very famous Carl Zeiss Sienna Tessar optical design. It features 4 elements in 3 groups. It's a very, very well-made design. The Germans used to call it, roughly in English, it's like hawkeye or eagle eye. It got this name because of its very, very sharp image quality, especially for the time it was made. So a lot of people will be familiar with the Carl Zeiss Sienna Tessar design. It's very well made. It's very optically close to perfect, especially considering its era. So as I said, this is a very light lens. It's just under 70 grams. It features a diaphragm with the 7 blades, a clickless diaphragm, which is mounted on the front part of the lens. Again, no clicks, and it's rather fiddly to use because a lot of times when you adjust the diaphragm, you will end up adjusting the focus as well. But that's just one of the reasons why I basically park it at f3.5, which is sharp enough, especially for my needs, and just leave it there. I just use the focusing. The aperture goes from 3.5 all the way down to f16. It's got a minimum focusing distance of just about half a meter, 65 centimeters, so it's reasonably suitable for close-up work. The focusing ring turns a very comfortable, almost full turn. I estimate around 340 degrees. So although my unit, I think, would require a bit of lubrication because the focus is kind of bumpy. Although it's not stiff by any measure, it's really comfortable to use and easy to focus, but it's not buttery smooth. It's a little bumpy. Be that as it may, these are some general facts about this lens, and I'm going to go through a list of, let's say, 5 reasons why you should own this lens and shoot with this lens, because let's be honest, the internet loves lists, so does YouTube, and just fringing on the clickbaity territory, this video is about 5 reasons why you should own and use this lens. Right, so reason number 1 is the price. This lens is very, very cheap. I got mine together with a Industar 50mm, well, the Industar 22 50mm 3.5, which I talked about in my previous video, which will be linked in the description and probably in one of these corners. But speaking of price, this lens can be had for, well, kind of like 2 packs of cigarettes for those of you that smoke. I've seen it in the Romanian market for the equivalent of $15 and more, but I think that's the right price. I've seen it on eBay go for 10 euros, for 15 euros, and I think that's a fair price. This lens was made in the millions, like literal millions. Excuse my French. A few tongue twisters here, but yeah, I'm doing my best. Millions of units were made of this lens, so it's very easy to find and thus very cheap. So this kind of segues into reason number 2, which is its availability. It's very easy to find, especially for someone living or, well, buying from Europe. It's very easy to come across. Just look on eBay, look on your maybe local markets, look on Facebook Marketplace. This lens is everywhere. I know people that have maybe 4 copies of it. There's dozens and dozens of them. A lot of them are in pristine condition. This itself is in really more than decent. It's a really good condition. It's not perfect, it's not new, but it's in very good condition. Third reason why you should own and use this lens is kind of twofold, but these 2 sides of the reason, let's say, are very interconnected. One side would be the portability, and the other would be because it's fun to use. As I've said, weighing less than 70 grams and being this small. Just look at it in the palm of my hand. Compare it to my watch. It's basically the size of... Let's be honest. We've all seen bigger watches than this lens. So it's really easy to carry. It makes your big camera small. Put it on it's a full frame lens. It can work on a full frame lens. So put it on a big DSLR full frame body, and it's suddenly pocketable. Just throw it in a jacket pocket or in a really small day bag or whatever. And that's the reason why it's very fun to shoot. Well, one of the reasons why it's very fun to shoot. And I think this is important because I am of the strong belief that photography should be fun. First and foremost, it should be fun. I mean, if you're not shooting weddings and, I don't know, events all day, in which case you're getting rich, not having fun. Well, with those exceptions in mind, photography should be fun. You should have fun doing it. You should enjoy the process, not only the end result, but the process. I personally find at least half of the enjoyment in the process, in shooting the pictures, in turning these damn knobs and rings and diaphragms and apertures and really editing my images. So this lens is a lot of fun to use. It is a little fiddly, and I'll get back to this once I talk about the cons, because it's not perfect, far from it. But generally, it's very fun to use. It's really hard to explain this quality of being fun to use, because you have to feel it, you have to use it, and I think you will agree, because it's easy to focus. The long focus throw makes it rather precise. It's really not that difficult to focus and nail focus. Being an f3.5 at the maximum aperture means depth of field is not that small, so it's, again, pretty easy to focus. Having said all that, I've reached reason number 4. Quattro. And this is the most important. That was a really weird pronunciation. You will excuse my less than perfect English. It's not my mother tongue, so I'm doing my best here. But that aside, let's talk about image quality. I've jotted down some bullet points, and the things I want to mention are, firstly, its sharpness. While it's not very sharp in the corners, center sharpness is really something. It's more than you would expect from a lens this small, a lens this old, a lens this weird at the end of the day, because it's really not that common. Well, it's commonly found, but the optical element is really small. It's got a front-mounted aperture ring, a really small one at that. I think it's something like 33mm thread right here, which makes it really hard to find a filter or a hood, or I don't know. But having said that, I need to reiterate, this lens is very sharp in the middle. Even fully open at 3.5, it renders very pleasant and quite saturated colors. It's not over the top. The colors are not extremely vibrant, but they're pleasant. They're nicely saturated. They have a nice fullness to them. They have body and character, and I was really taken aback because I was used to its older sibling, the Industar 22, which renders rather muted tones and colors, but this, not so much. This is very colorful. Well, not the lens, the images it produces. Tying into another aspect of image quality is its contrast. While not up to modern standards, it is sufficiently contrasty. Not enough that you would leave an image as it is out of camera, but certainly more so than its Industar 22 sibling, and certainly more so than a lot of other lenses I've used. It's sharp and contrasty, with nice colors. And the thing I like most about it regarding image quality is its general character. Under the right circumstances, it swirls. A lot of you, especially those fond of vintage lenses, will know the swirl. Especially those of you that use Helios lenses. Under the right circumstances, language, and the right distance from your subject and the background, it will swirl. It will create these circular bokeh balls and circular shapes, which, although I'm not really a fan of, I certainly don't mind. But I know a lot of people that just go crazy for the swirl. For a lot of people, it's the only reason, or maybe the main reason why they buy specific lenses, the swirl. And this one does it. It swirls under the right circumstances. Another thing I want to mention about image quality is its rather surprising resistance to chromatic aberrations. Considering it only the exterior of the rear element is coated with an AR coating, AR as in anti-reflexive coating, and seeing how the front element is not coated at all, it's just glass, uncoated glass, I find it quite surprising how well this behaves with very contrasty situations. It controls chromatic aberrations very well, and this is commendable considering its age and the kind of lens this is. Damn, is beer good. Which brings me, no it doesn't. But anyway, reason number 5 why you should own this lens is a rather shallow and superficial one. But I'm gonna keep it because it's important to me. This is looks. I care how lenses look. I care how my gadgets look. I care how my tools look. I care how the things I use look. And although it's really not the first thing I look for, it isn't the most important thing or the most important factor in deciding whether or not to get a certain thing or item, or it's important. And this lens looks cool. Let me show you how cool this lens looks. Cool is entirely subjective, but it is cool. This is mounted on a M42 to NEX adapter and mounted to my Sony camera. The lens is shorter, it's slimmer, it's thinner, it's in all ways smaller than the adapter itself. But be that as it may, I think it makes for a glorious look. And I care about these stupid things. I care that my camera looks good. I mean, it's not... Don't get me wrong, I don't go around prancing like an idiot on the streets with a camera like this. Hey people, look at me, this is my camera. No. It's... I care how it looks for me. I like having stuff that looks good. I like looking at my stuff and saying, oh man, this looks cool. I like the way this looks. I'm not gonna go and tell, well, I'm telling you because I'm making this video, but I'm not gonna post it on social media and, well, yeah, I am. I am gonna post it on social media and brag about how cool this looks. I'm a liar. I am going to brag about how cool this looks. Sue me. Having said all that, I think it's only fair to mention a few of the negative aspects, a few of the cons. They're not sufficient reasons for you not to get this lens, but it's something you should keep in mind. It's something worth mentioning, if not for anything else, just for you to adjust your expectations, to curb your enthusiasm. It's a show I never watched, but there you go. So here is a list of negatives. Number 1, this thing vignettes. Wide open, it vignettes, well, significantly enough that I sometimes find it necessary to correct it. I usually like a vignette. I usually add a vignette to my images, but when editing pictures shot with this lens, I often find myself correcting the vignette and compensating for it. Negative aspect number 2 is that this thing really doesn't reach its peak optical performance until f8 or f11 maybe, while personally I don't find an issue with this. As I mentioned, I park it at f3.5 and I just shoot with it. I can introduce a little bit of more sharpness while editing, and it's already sharp enough, especially so in the center. But if you're going to shoot landscapes or, I don't know, test charts or anything where sharpness is really important, you're going to need to step this down considerably. At least f5.6, if not f8, if not f11. f16 is too much because diffraction kicks in and you will get less sharpness, not more. So if sharpness is critical, try to keep it at f8, maybe f11. Reason number 3 is something I touched upon earlier. It's, well, lack of coatings. This thing flares. As I mentioned, only the rear element and the exterior part of the rear element is coated with a single layer of AR coating, so this thing will flare. It will flare a lot, and under certain circumstances it will flare extremely. I don't find the flares particularly pleasing. They're not the symmetrical kind, the ones you're used to with modern lenses. They're the circular kind, and while focusing you will even see them moving, so maybe you can use this creatively, but generally I try to avoid shooting into the sun or into direct bright lights, because this layer, this lens flares, and it flares like a madman. Reason number 4 why you should probably think twice about getting this lens is its ergonomics. As I've surely mentioned before, maybe twice already, this lens features a front-mounted aperture ring, which is kind of fiddly to use. You can probably see while turning the aperture ring, you will be turning the focusing ring, so keep that in mind. I'm not sure if this is particular to my copy, but this one here is a little bumpy. While it does not grab, it's easy enough to focus and focus correctly. It's not buttery smooth. It bumps a little. I think it should be oiled a bit. Maybe it does require a bit of lubricating, some TLC. But it's not the most. It is fun to use, but it's not the easiest lens to use because of its size, because of its age, because the way it's built. And I'm speaking mainly of the focusing ring and the aperture ring. You should keep this in mind. You should adjust your expectations. You should consider the fact that this is a 60-year-old lens. You should not expect it to work like a contemporary modern lens. Having said all that, I've reached the end of my video. I will leave you with some samples. I will try to include both black and white and color images. Thank you for being here with me. I enjoy making these videos, but I enjoy it even more if I know you are enjoying watching them. So please let me know of this by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, hitting the little bell, because that will notify you every time I upload something new. Thank you again for watching. This has been Radu. Until next time, God bless you all.